Herod and Mariamne. Fear had done its deadly work in the mind of Herod. Horrible moans and screams went echoing through his palace in Jerusalem the year after Cleopatra died, heartbroken cries for his dead Mariamne. Beset with demons, he was said to be possessed by those evil spirits that caused all forms of illnesses. The head physician, for all of his potions and strange remedies of black spiders or Egyptian mummy powder, could not cast the devils out. Through the chamber door, Herod could be seen tossing on his couch as if wrestling with the demons, wild-eyed and feverish and screaming for Mariamne. Believing that he could see her coming, he stretched out his arms to her, but the shadow vanished. Again he saw her. Again he tried to reach for her, but his arms were empty. "Mariamne," he screamed, "Mariamne!" And there was only silence. Why did he make no sound? Why could he not move? He must be dead, and Mariamne was alive. He saw her now, standing above him, bending toward him, holding a cup of poisoned wine. Nearer she came, nearer. With a final shriek, he flung his arm wide to knock the cup of poison from her hand and felt his knuckles beat against the wall. Then at last he woke from his delirium. Cold and exhausted, his head clear, Herod woke to face the truth. Mariamne was dead, lost to him forever. He himself had had her killed. This dreadful deed, this tragic death of Mariamne, had followed closely upon Herod's first meeting with Octavian after the Battle of Actium. Upon hearing of Antony's defeat, Herod had wasted no time before presenting himself to his new overlord. As soon as he learned that Octavian was on his way to Egypt, he had set forth to meet him on the island of Samos. He had feared, however, to go so far and leave Mariamne behind him in Jerusalem. What if some other man made love to her while he was gone? What if he were killed? What if he did not return at all and she should then become the wife of another? The very idea sent the wild blood pounding in his throat, and he contrived a mad scheme to prevent it. The queen must not be allowed to live, he said, taking his chamberlain aside. If I do not return, she is to die also, but she must never suspect it. You understand, the queen must not suspect it. Searching the man's face and seeing no reason to distrust him, Herod had set forth on an uncertain mission. 9 years had now passed since Herod had been crowned in Rome, but from the recollection of the younger man, Herod judged that Caesar Octavian, as he now called himself, was one with whom plain facts and simple bearing would be most effective. Therefore, before entering the presence of this all-powerful Roman, who could now make or ruin him, Herod had removed his crown and all of his royal ornaments. He had then stated his case briefly, with the result that when he left, not only was his crown secure, but his kingdom had been greatly enlarged. Octavian had recognized in Herod the kind of strong, capable king that Rome needed to protect the border against Parthia. So he had restored to him all the land which Antony had given to Cleopatra and added much more territory. Proud and exultant, Herod rode back to Jerusalem, eager above all else to report his success and share his triumph with his beloved queen. He found Mariamne as he had left her, alone, without her children, locked in a fortress underground, safe, but greatly changed, cold and disinterested. She turned away and had no word for him. When he tried to touch her, she shrank away in horror. Herod saw at once that Mariamne had learned of his plot to have her killed if he did not return. Then came the ugly thought. How had Mariamne teased the secret from the disloyal chamberlain? Herod's mean-minded sister now fed his fears and suspicion. Glad to get even with Mariamne, whom she hated for her haughty manner, the evil girl hinted of secret meetings between the king and the chamberlain. She suggested that it was no longer safe for Herod to trust Mariamne to pour his wine for him, as had been his habit. To prove it, she bribed a servant to help her carry out a devilish plot. A day or so later, a cup of wine was set before Herod, which the cupbearer told him was a love potion prepared for him by Mariamne. He advised the king, however, to test its effective first on someone else. A prisoner condemned to die was sent for. Given the wine to drink, the man fell dead of poison. Terrified, Herod sent for Mariamne, begged her to deny her guilt. Mariamne, white with anger at being accused of such a crime, refused to speak, nor did she deny to utter a word in her own defense. When later she was brought to trial, in proud silence she stood and heard herself condemned to death. Herod had no heart to order the sentence carried out. For weeks he kept sending messages of love to her prison cell, pleading with her to say that she was innocent. He paced the palace halls, waiting for a single word from her which never came. Outside in the streets could be heard the harsh, shrill voices of the Jewish people, an angry mob, furious at the unjust treatment of this Maccabean princess. Maccabeans, stormed Herod, Maccabeans, always these Maccabeans. Would he never be rid of them? Must he kill them all? Young Aristobulus was dead, and old Hyrcanus, the boy and the old priest, both of them. He had had them both killed. Wasn't that enough? Must he kill all of the Maccabeans to be free of fear? If so, he would wipe out the whole family, root and branch. Then perhaps the rebellious Jewish people would settle down. Then perhaps they would be terrified into silence and let him be king in peace. So Mariamne had been sent to her death on the scaffold and other suspected enemies wiped out. No sooner had Mariamne been beheaded than Herod had gone mad with grief. In time, the demons and evil spirits left his tormented body, but his mind was poisoned forever. Never again was Herod to be free of fear.